This regular city council meeting is called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Ed Norris, please call the roll.
Mayor McClellan?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns?
Here.
Councilmember Speech? Here. Councilmember Radner?
Here.
Councilmember Rich?
Here.
Okay. Next, need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, agenda's approved. Next, we have the consent agenda, which is a series of routine items that we're considering as a single item without discussion. Anyone on council can ask to have an item removed from this list before we vote on it. Item A, does anyone want anything removed? Okay, item A, regular council meeting minutes of February 15th, 2016. B, special council meeting minutes for the same date. C, election commission meeting minutes, October 22nd and February 2nd. D, recycling and environmental conservation commission meeting minutes of December 17th. Beautification advisory commission meeting minutes of December 15th. Board of Review organizational meeting minutes of February 10th. Public safety activity summary for December 2015. Zoning Board of Appeals meeting minutes of January 26th. Request to cancel the regularly scheduled Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, March 22nd, 2016. Planning Commission meeting minutes of November 9th, 2015. Request to advertise for bids for the 2016 water main replacement project M625. Payment of invoices from Orchard Hills McClement for 9 Mile Road conceptual plan and traffic analysis, PE traffic signal design, and traffic signal optimization in the total amount of $22,936. And finally, licenses, new and renewals as submitted for March 7th, 2016. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Any, no discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda is passed. We have recognition of visiting elected officials. Anyone here for an elected official? Okay. We have special recognition presentations. I don't see someone from, is there someone here from the treasurer's office right now? Don't see someone. Water rate study presentation then, Beth Bialy from Plant Moran. And for council members, it is the item in your, the bound item in your packet.
Good evening.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. This evening, what I want to do is just go through, not the detail of the report that's in front of you, but basically just an overview, give you some of the highlights, give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. The outcome of the study on the water and sewer rates really is summarized at the bottom of page 3 of the document that you have. And the objective really was to take a 10-year look at the rates, looking at whether or not the rates were set at an appropriate level to cover operating costs, but also at an appropriate level to build up adequate reserves for working capital, because you need to have working capital at any point in time so that you have cash available to pay your bills while you're waiting for the billing cycle to end, the meters to be read, the bills to be issued, and the payments to come in. So you always need to have working capital, and you also need to have some reserves on hand for repairs and replacement. So you currently, or at the beginning of the study, had a decent level of reserves, about $7 million, but they actually are being eaten into each year, more so on the sewer side than the water side, although the users are basically the same. So even with the rate increase that we've recommended here, which is 2% on the water side and 10% on the sewer side, you're still gonna see a little bit of a decline in the reserve level for the next few years, and then it's going to recover and start to be built back up. Really, one of the big reasons why you need the rate increase that you do is that usage overall is decreasing. We're kind of seeing this across the whole region, that there's just less water being used. And so even though you've passed on some increases from your major sources being City of Detroit and Oakland County, when you're applying that rate to a unit volume that's decreasing, you're not bringing in the amount of revenue that you anticipated when you originally set that rate. So you're kind of playing catch up there. Your units dropped, we just went back a couple of years, your units dropped from 105 million down to 95 million over the last 3 years, so that's a 10% decrease in the units. Your biggest cost factors, again, would be what you pay the City of Detroit for your wholesale water, and that has a fixed component and a variable component, and those on average are going up about 3.9%. On the sewer side, where you're paying Oakland County for treatment of your sewage, those average annual increases have been about 5.2%. So these are the factors that we used. We also would have looked at salary increases, pension costs, healthcare, and so forth. One of the other factors that's built into the study is your capital need. And so we would have asked Kevin and others, what types of capital needs does the system have, water versus sewer, over the next 10 years? And you have projects ranging from a low in any given year of about 1.2 million to a high of about 1.8 million. And when you look at that in the context of your whole system, it's around 10% of the costs of the system, which seems appropriate, and you have to continue to reinvest in the system, or you risk, obviously not being able to supply the water. So we think that that seems appropriate. The water rate that we've projected, again, is a nominal 2% increase, and that's just to cover increases that will be passed along from the City of Detroit and to maintain your reserves at a good level. And then on the sewer side, that's the area that's kind of been lagging behind in terms of your rate. So we're actually recommending a 10% increase on the sewer side for the next few years, and then it tapers off a little bit after that. And again, as I mentioned, the reserve level will decrease a little bit, and then it'll start to go back up. And the only way to not have it decrease is to have an even larger increase than 10%, but what we try to do is basically smooth that increase out over a 10-year period so as to not take too big of a hit. When you look at it on a combined basis at the bottom of page 3 there, because the water users basically are the same as the sewer users, the combined increased rate is about 7%. There's a lot of detail that goes behind the detailed schedules that are in the back, but I was not going to go into any detail unless anybody had some questions.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
If I'm looking at this correctly, it suggests a 19% increase overall?
7.
No, 2% for the water
2% for the water, 10%
10%
for the sewer,
and,
but on a combined
It'll
basis.
just
So
be-
one's gonna go up 2 and one's gonna go up 10. It's the same users of the system. The sewer and water rates aren't starting out exactly the same. Sewer's a lot more expensive. So in total, it averages out to a 7% increase.
okay. And this will be effective,
Speak to that.
City Manager Chungate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple points that I wanted to make. Not so much questions, Beth, but I do have a couple. This study was precipitated several months ago, and it was an attempt by us to understand the universe that we're operating in. We had not done one of these in our water and sewer rate structure. Right.
to have this study done, okay?
Right,
I'll
and
call
so this is a sort of, get everything together stage, and then, of course, we're headed into the budget phase now, where we're gonna have to determine, what is our actual rate structure going to be. A 7% increase is a big increase.
back. Yes, it is.
And how we smooth that out, or, what projects we take on. Do we lessen our capital improvement projects? Do we, lessen the amount we're putting into the pension, whatever it may be? Those are the conversations that we'll have as part of the budget process.
Slight adding demand, will that make any difference? We're adding 60 new units and 3 new houses in a Federal Express company. Is that enough to make a dent in?
Well, we did project going forward that there would be 0.5% increase in the usage. I think that would incorporate any additions such as those.
Madam Mayor,
Another
if I may.
question.
Councilmember Speech.
Yes, my question actually was in line with the mayor's about demand. You mentioned that we're having to possibly, we may have to increase because of the demand going down. So if residents go up or if businesses, if the demand increases, how will that impact it? I think you just answered at one point. You factored that in?
We did factor in, again, it's pretty nominal because you have actually seen some decreases the last few years, but we are seeing that that's pretty much seems like it's bottomed out.
Okay.
In a lot of the studies that we've done. And so I feel pretty good about using 0.5%. It's not that much, but the other thought is, what we're doing here is looking at it over a 10-year period and trying to get you where you need to be with your reserves over 10 years and try to smooth that out. So you can always look at it. You don't have to follow exactly what we have here for the next 10 years. You can look at it and tweak it because it is based on budgets and assumptions, and not all of that is going to obviously always come in exactly as projected. So you will have to continue to look at it and look at whether you've had any significant change in the user base or the units that are sold.
And that leads to my second question. We do have a reservoir here in Oak Park, and I was wondering, does that factor in any way how we use the water? And have you all considered any factors like environmental, maybe how we as residents can, conserve or anything like that into the equation?
No, we wouldn't really have looked at the environmental aspects of it. As far as having the storage, the study is really based on the number of units that you sell to your residents.
Okay.
The storage unit, I think, can help you, and again, I'm not an expert on the engineering side, but I think it can help you to keep your costs down because you're pumping water in at times when it's not peak flows and so forth. One thing to point out is you do have pretty low water loss, and that's one area that can be of concern, especially in older communities, because there's enough, you purchase so many units from the city of Detroit, and then you sell so many units to the residents, and in between buying it and selling it, there's always units that are basically lost. So there could be leaky water mains, you could be flushing your hydrants, what have you. You don't always sell exactly, well, you never sell exactly how much you purchase, but the thought is to try to keep that water loss at a reasonable level. And yours was coming out on average to about 5.5%, which is really a good level for a community, a built-up community and a community of your age. So that means that you're doing what you need to do to maintain, the pipes and not letting it get to the point where you have a lot of breaks.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Great. Mayor, City Manager.
Thank you.
I was going for Mayor
I
Pro
don't
Tem, that
want
wasn't
job, I'm
working,
telling
no.
I just wanted to comment on something you just said, but I also wanted to ask you a question. I think it does speak to the tremendous investment that our city council has made over the last several budget years, but also to the commitment of our staff who have, in my opinion, maintained our system at just an amazing level. And we see that all over the place and many examples of that. The one question I had, and I think I know the answer, but I wanted you to verify it, was in the current year's budget, City Council decided to pass on half of the recommended rate increase. And again, that was always whatever the rate was given to us, we passed it on to our customers. Is this blended combined rate, does that take that into consideration?
This would be the rate that you would need in order to, so you would need a rate of whatever that total is.
7%?
113.14 combined rate to cover your costs and to be on a path to get your reserves back to where they are. Regardless of it, passing along that's the level that you need to ultimately be at And again, it's 2%, in the model, it's 2% every year for water, because your reserves are pretty good on the water side, but you don't want to let them deteriorate. And then on the sewer, it's kind of playing catch-up, but not with such a large increase that it's not, you know, something that can be passed on. So we're trying to spread that out. You could spread it out any way you want, really, but we tried to do 10% and then have it taper off going in the later years.
Madam Mayor? Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Rich.
Yeah, I have a few questions for you about the report. There's something you just said I just want some clarification on. You said the reserves are pretty good on the water side, but you want to make sure they're not going to be depleted. Which reserves are you referring to?
Well, we're really looking at, well, these are the reserves that you want to have set aside. So it's basically your
Money.
net assets of your water and sewer fund would be your reserves.
Okay, and the amount of that right now? Because you say it's pretty good. What's that amount?
I believe it was about $7 million at the beginning, like as of June 30th, 2015.
$7 million that's in reserve, not being used to purchase water, not being used to fix anything, correct?
Well, and the targeted reserve balance that we're trying to get you to over time is somewhat close to that number, but the problem is you're actually using up reserves. You're using up about $2 million a year because you're not charging enough right now. So you don't want to continue on that path where you totally deplete those reserves, because you need that, again, for working capital. And then also you want to have reserves so that if you had something that needed to be fixed with the system and it was $500,000, you don't want to have to go through all the hoops of, you know, either borrowing or you wouldn't do any sort of formal bond for that because it would just be too expensive. So you want to have the reserve level that we are trying to get you to is basically a combination of 3 months worth of expenditures for that float. You have to pay your bills every month, but the way that the billing works, and by the time you collect from the customers, there's a time lag. And then it's also looking at 10% of the current value of your system. So having that money in reserve for any major repairs, replacements, and so forth.
The reserves of 7 billion, were they higher than 2 or 3 years ago? You say we're depleting those reserves.
I
Have they
believe
been-
they're lower than,
They're lower now than they had been before, that's what I'm asking.
yes.
With regard to, thank you for that clarification. With regard to your report, on page 3, the 4th bullet point, you talk about we're adding an average of 3 new customers a year for water and 3 new customers a year for sewer. I gather that's talking about new construction.
Correct, and that would be based on just some estimates from Kevin and others as far as history of what.
Okay. But that additional water usage for our existing buildings that are being revamped, et cetera, that's not factored in.
Well, that's all part of the 0.5% increase. So adding 3 users on the water and the sewer side wouldn't be 0.5%. So that additional 0.5% is just everybody using a little bit more water.
And then finally, the figures you have at the bottom of page 2, $1.8 million in 2016 for capital improvements to the water and sewer system. And then there was another figure below that of between $1.1 million and $1.5 million. Is that a per year number for the years 17 through 25?
Yes, that's the range. If you looked at 2017 through 2025, there was a variable amount each year, but in total, the lowest year was $1.115 million and the highest year was $1.5 million. And again, some of that's subject to, you know, there may be projects you could push off a year, there may be projects that you decide you want to issue bonds for, but that's just basically taking all of those and assuming that those would be funded through the system.
And those would be a combination of the forecast on page 5 and page 6 of your report, where it says maintenance and repair for sewer and maintenance repair for water. You just added those 2 up?
No, it's actually a couple of lines down from that number. It's the line that says capital improvement. And you have to add it, you know, 1 page is sewer and 1 page is water.
And then the data for the forecast on the capital improvement, where did you get that data from, or those assumptions?
As far as the various projects and
Yes.
so forth, that would have come from Kevin and others.
All right, so these are projects that are in the works, or? I mean, I can understand we would know what projects are in the works for 2016, but how did we get the assumptions for 2020, 2021, et cetera?
I think it's based on a longer.
City
plan,
Manager
what needs to
Tungate
be-
will talk to you about the five-year plan.
We do a capital plan years out from the current budget year, and we estimate, you know, based on their cycle, when projects are rotating in and out throughout the system. But that's done by staff.
Thank you very much for answering my
Thank you.
questions.
Any further questions?
I just have one question.
Councilmember Radner.
On page 2 there, the fourth bottom paragraph, or bullet point rather, it's indicated that consumption was abnormally low from 2014 to 2015. I mean, it was abnormally low since 2008, but it was also low between 2014 and 2015. And now we're, I guess, projecting that there's going to be an increase of 0.5%.
Yeah, and again, this is what we're seeing in other places, is that there was a big drop-off, but it seems to be stabilized. And so, rather than saying it was gonna continue to decrease, I think the thought was, let's put a nominal increase in there. It helps to offset, you know, it helps to generate a rate that's a little bit lower, and because the rate increase was so high to begin with, we said, let's assume that it's gonna be 0.5% or 0.5%. If it isn't, that difference isn't gonna generate that much of a difference in your overall total revenue, so it's pretty conservative.
But the assumption, if I understand it correctly, is that from 2008 to 2015 have been decreases, and the assumption now is that 2015 was rock bottom.
That's the assumption, yes.
Is there anything in particular that is not included here that we're basing that assumption on? It looks like Eric has some information on that.
Madam Mayor, if I could address that.
City Manager Tungate.
I don't know how you guys factored that, but I can say perhaps, it's corresponding to the restoration of our commercial and industrial taxable values, which are just now recovering on a appreciation basis, so that would make sense.
But that
Believe
was
it or not.
That was not present between 2014 and 2015? That variable?
Just as of the current budget year, I mean, our residential taxable values had been recovering 2 years before, but just as of the current budget year, we're just in this budget year seeing our first commercial industrial taxable value increases.
Okay.
Yeah, and some
All
of
right,
it
thank
too, I'd say the last couple years, coupled with just that usage is down because of the economy and people trying to conserve, there also have been some really wet summers too. So when you have a wet summer, you don't have as many people having to water their lawn, and that has an impact as well. So I think we're assuming that things will be kind of back to normal.
The concern that I kind of have deep down in my gut is that the higher the rates go, the lower consumption goes, because people say, hey, my water bill's so high, I'm only going to take a shower every other day now. Yuck, but it doesn't bring the money in.
It could be, yeah.
But
Well, and that's
obviously our
what,
assumption
you'll
now
have
is,
to continue to monitor it, and if that's the case, you may need to, adjust the rates even more, but 10% is, we felt like that was kind of where we wanted to cap it at, and again, in total, it's a 7% increase.
thank you.
Councilmember Speech.
Yes, well, I know, this is a little bit to your point, Councilmember Radner. I know during budgets, we do have some, I guess, we don't necessarily we may not necessarily go with the 10%. We see the recommendation, but we have some room to move around and find out what are we going to use. My question to you was, the flood that we had, I believe it was in 2014, was very, catastrophic especially for Oak Park. Did the numbers from that impact the study that you had in any way?
No, we would have gone through the actual numbers, going back a couple of years, and asking about anything that was out of the ordinary. So we didn't want to build a model off of a number that was sort of a hopefully one-time added cost.
That's good to know, because I'd hate to have a high number just on that. That was
Right.
horrible. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, but
Councilmember Rich.
I want to follow up on something that Councilmember Radner said that got me thinking. Did your study consider what would happen if rates were lowered? Would there be more consumption and an increase in dollars? And and I'm just wondering if there's been any study like that done elsewhere, if there's any written papers, on that elsewhere in the country. I see that city manager's getting ready. He's got his pen in hand, ready to
Maybe
jump
I'll
on
let
this.
him answer that, because I
But-
don't really have a good answer for that.
But it does raise the point. I know a lot of people who have taken steps to halt consumption in their house. They've checked their pipes, checked their toilets, et cetera. Don't water the lawn. I'm just wondering, if you make it cheaper, will there be a greater usage?
Madam Mayor, can I?
City Manager Tungate, please.
Councilmember Rich, there's a couple things, and I think just to piggyback on something Councilmember Speech mentioned about, there are some variables that we can work with in terms of looking at that. But it's my understanding that as of this study, this is a template that we can now use, and we can plug numbers and play with. And this is part of the budget process when we get into it. But I want to stress that, not surprising, that if we keep going the way we are, we're going to continue to eat away at our fund balance, and it's not feasible.
Further questions?
Again, I think what's happening now is, and just in response to what you're saying, it's not a rebuttal, it's just a follow-up question, so don't take it the wrong way. Yeah. Obviously, the concern is, if the bills go up, the rates go up, consumption goes down, 6 months from now, we're screwed again. And then we'll have to raise the rates again, and then consumption will go down even. It's just, the more one goes up, the more the other one goes down. That's the concern that I have in my gut. I think that's why Councilmember Rich actually asked whether or not there are any data that kind of go the other way. Well, what if we make it much cheaper? Now, consumption will increase tremendously, and voila, we all have lots of money to
I
spend.
don't know if you want to speak to that one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any data to support it one way or another. I think the concern would be that water is, I think people use a certain amount of water, and they kind of have habits that they follow and showers that they take every day or what have you. And so I guess I'd be nervous about decreasing the rate unless there were some data out there that would support the fact that usage would go way up. Usage seems to be typically pretty steady. It's just been in the last few years with the economy, and even then, with the economy being as bad as it is, the usage has gone down maybe 10%. So it hasn't, it's not something that fluctuates wildly with the economy. So I think there's kind of a band of usage that everybody just has, and I'd be nervous about, I don't think that if you lowered it, there's only so much water that people need to use. So lowering it, doesn't necessarily mean people are going to use a lot more, because they're probably using what they need right now.
City Manager Tungate.
Just wanted to add to that, if it's any indication, remember in the current budget year, the council decided to pass on half of the rate increase. And I don't think we've seen any increase or marginal, nominal increase at least, but I don't think we've seen a huge increase as a result of that, if that's any indication of what could happen.
I understand that, the concern that I have, though, is that we've had decreases for 7 straight years, and now this entire, the entire plan is based on the assumption that suddenly now there's going to be an increase. I think you've answered that question. I just hope that actually plays out that way. So
Okay.
thank you. Thank you for answering the questions, and thank you, Eric, as well.
One more.
Councilmember Speech.
Yes, just for the clarity for those at home, we do have an audience here, but just for those at home, I want to just be clear that this is a study, the first time that we've done it on this issue, and recommendations from the agency, but this is not us setting water rates. So certainly pay attention to what's going on, but please don't panic because nothing is decided tonight. This is a study and recommendations, and we'll go from there because we know where to start now. We didn't know anything about our water rates and what came from Detroit and how to charge or what to charge before. Now we do. So, thank you.
Thank you. City Manager Tungate.
I just wanted to underscore the importance of what Councilmember Speech just said, 'cause that's exactly right. That was the whole point of this, was to establish the baseline. So now we know that rather than just passing on the rate that's passed on to us from the Great Lakes Water Authority, now we have a formula and a template that we can use to project years out, whether that be an increase in usage or whatever it may be.
Thank
We're
you.
getting scientific about it, finally.
Thank you. If I could take a minute too, I just want to make sure that I thank Eric for his help during the study, Carl for looking at a million drafts, and Kevin as well. I appreciate all their help. Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.
Okay, this brings us to item 10, special event request and waiver of application fee submitted by East Oak Park Block Club Neighborhood Association for the 7th Annual Family Picnic to be held at Best Park, July 23rd, with a rain date of July 24th. Motion to approve this request.
Support.
Discussion.
The only question, Madam Mayor,
Councilmember Speech.
the only question I had was about will it be open to the public? It's checked no, and I wondered if that was a typo or an error. If anybody knew.
Let's see.
Is anybody here from, because they're asking for and I'll continue my question. So they're asking for the fee to be waived, but, it's a neighborhood association, but it's saying it's not public. So those seems contradictory, so I just wanted clarification.
So, City Clerk, can we contact?
My
them?
understanding is it's open to the public in that area, so
Right.
that's all I'm aware of. So I don't know if they didn't put the right box or not, but it's
It's open
in
to
a
the
sense,
public
it's
in the
open to the
neighborhood.
public.
Everybody comfortable now?
Yep. So, I guess I can make a motion to amend or a motion to approve.
Or just asking maybe the clerk to clarify?
If the
with,
clerk can clarify, but what do I need to do if, what I'm trying to say, clerk, if you can help me, verbalize. What I'm trying to say is, if it's open to the public, then I would be, then I would approve going for the fee being waived. If it's not open to the public, then I would not. So I'm not clear whether they checked the box correctly, fill the application out correctly or not.
May I?
Right. City Manager?
I would just, Councilmember, I would just recommend making it conditional to the event being
Aha.
open to the public.
Great.
Okay.
A motion with
That's
the
it, right.
caveat. Can I amend the motion that I've made? Since
Yes.
this was my motion, I'd like
Thank
to
you.
make the motion to approve so long as it is open to the public.
So long as it is open to the public, great.
Support.
Can we vote on this now? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so conditional on it being open to the public. The next one, a special event request and waiver of fees submitted by Oak Park Ethnic Advisory Commission for the annual World Day of Dance, held at the Rec Center on April 29th. A motion to approve this special event request.
So moved?
And a
Support.
Support. Any discussion? Councilmember Speech.
I did have a question about this because this is one of our commissions.
Yeah.
Do we usually do the application for this event?
City Manager Tungate.
We haven't done it for this event,
don't
but
remember us
as
doing
of the current budget year, we do have a new special event policy, which does require even,
Okay.
so it's more of a formality for this one, but we do
Okay,
require them to
gotcha.
do it. And if I could just mention, there is, if you look back in the chart at the back of this application, there is a fairly sizable allocation of staff time towards this too, that you would be having to consider as part of your approval.
Sorry, where was that?
On this chart in the back, now I think we've held this for a couple of years now.
Yes, we have.
Kind of, it's an annual event that the city has held for a couple of years and have not charged our own commission in the past for this, correct?
We have not.
Okay. So
Madam
this
Mayor?
is the way it's been done. Councilmember Speech.
Yes, I just want to make the point that this commission has held the event, but it hasn't always been at the city.
Right, I think
So
one
it's
year
been
it was
free.
at the
The Oak
school,
Park High School, yes.
right, but previously it was at the city.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the fees here. I see that the director and a monitor will be here. I'm not sure if that's normal. Do both
is.
of them usually, okay,
Yeah,
so,
we usually have staff present.
so that's, and then the fee is waived, so it's what we would have done already. They just have to fill out the form now. Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
Trying to, make it better organized.
Gotcha.
And Madam Mayor, if I could just add one more thing too, and better organized, but we're also taking these funds into account so that, you know, as we go into the budget cycle, of course, we'll know what to allocate per each board and commission.
Right. Okay, all those in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next item is C, and I think our city clerk was going to explain something about this to us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have before you a massage facility license application. We don't get many of these, so wanted to make sure that we covered everything. The application is for, the application is from Lee Wang with the address of 8230 9 Mile Road. Chapter 22, businesses, Article 11, speaks to the massage facility aspects of this license, and want to make sure we're all on the same page. Article 11 specifies that an applicant for a massage facility license must present a fully completed application and business license fee to the city clerk. Ms. Lang has submitted this application along with the requisite supporting documentation. Pursuant to the applicable codes sections, the application and supporting materials have been referred to the Departments of Public Safety and Technical and Planning for recommendations as to approval or denial of the license. Representatives of both departments have completed their initial review and confirmed that there are no objections to the issuance of the license, subject to the approval of City Council. And subsequently, the applicant acquiring ownership of the commercial structure located at 8230 9 Mile Road. Should the council approve issuance of the license, then the applicant acquires the subject premises. The requisite inspections will be conducted by the appropriate departments, and required business license will also have to be obtained. So essentially, this is subject to business license issuance along with the massage facility license. That's part of it.
Okay, questions? Councilmember Speech.
I have two questions. The first one, is this normally how it's done for a massage, as far as you know, or maybe the economic development manager can answer, but as far as you know, is this how the massage facilities that we've had come into the city, is this how they've been handled?
This is this is the first one that I know of, and the ordinance is very specific about how it spells out what's supposed to happen. So that's what we've tried to follow here.
Okay.
What's different about this is that there's a pending sale on the property. So that makes it a little bit different because there are some conditions that have to be met with respect to the actual property before the business license is issued.
So he doesn't have a location for his business at this point, basically?
My understanding is that there's one pending.
Right, but
There's a
it's
pending
not
sale, that's
officially
correct.
in, okay. So my second question is, if we wait until he gets it, what will be the problem with that? Is there a reason that he's applying now and not after he gets the location?
I believe Ms. Wang is interested in the fact that she would like some assurance that the license would be obtained for the sale of this, before the closing of the property.
It looks, okay, so she wants a city license, but there's not a business license or a location right now. So she's waiting on the city to say, or he, whoever, is saying, they're waiting on the city to say, yes, they can do business here before they get a business and actually get business licensed by the state?
No, the applicant is licensed
Okay,
by
so-
the state already.
So
That's
they're,
part of
they
the
are a
agreement.
massage, okay, so they're just looking for a location.
Madam Mayor, could I-
Help me understand the.
City Manager Tungate?
Can I ask a question that I think would clarify it?
Councilmember Radner.
Is this license specific to a specific address in Oak Park?
It is, and I
So-
believe it's
so if
the address on
location
9
doesn't-
Mile.
So if the location doesn't work out, they need a new license?
They have to come back to you.
Does that address what you were?
No.
So,
Okay.
so if I could, that's exactly right, and if I'm not mistaken, Mr. City Clerk, the 8230 9 Mile Road is the address of this location that they're trying to close, correct?
That's correct.
Then the license, the massage facility license, if you granted it, would only be allowed at that specific address. If they were to change that, they would have to come back to you for your approval to do so.
Okay. Let me help you understand what I'm trying to prevent. I don't know if you remember, but we had another massage company to come in 2013. We allowed them some things before everything went through. We said yes to the license, and then they were here for like 2 seconds, and they had their name on the building for a long time. We actually had to end up taking them to court, if you remember, to get their name, the sign off of the building. But for a long time, they were in this space under conditions that we allowed them to be under, and they weren't even operating anymore.
City Manager Tungate.
And that's,
And I don't want to get in that situation, that's my point.
which is,
Can we have our Economic Development Director speak to this?
can I first please
Yep.
speak to this?
Yes.
So that particular facility did not follow the proper protocol, which is one of the reasons why we shut them down. So they did not have a proper license, they didn't have a proper business license, and that's why we shut them down. We enforced our rules and regulations, so they didn't follow protocol at all, actually.
No, but City Manager, we allowed them to, we gave them what they needed to get started, is my point. So they didn't finish based on what we said that they could do. They didn't follow through with what they said, but the city council did say, okay, yes, give them what they're asking here, and we're trusting on faith. So my concern is there another way to do this where it doesn't leave us having to be in that situation again? And I'm not bashful about bringing this up at all, because I'm really concerned about the fact that, the questions and the things that should be asked are not being asked right away. So I'm asking now because I'm just now seeing everything, how it's written out, and I'm not clear on it right now, so I'm asking the question right now.
I'm sorry, can you please restate your question? Just,
My
is it a
question
question
is-
I cannot speak to what happened historically on the past, business issue, and I don't know if anyone here can speak to that, but with respect to my understanding of what's being requested tonight is for this body to authorize, passage of this business license. You have the ability to do that as long as it meets your ordinance requirements, and you can condition it upon, again, one of the specific requirements, I believe in here, is ownership or, the specific location. I don't, again, know the status of that. I believe the property owner is here. If you have some specific questions that they can maybe address as to where that is in its process. But I don't think that pending, purchase of the real estate prohibits you from acting again on the request for the business license. You can condition it. Now, with that said, I'm sorry, or the massage license, the massage facility license. So again, if that's your question, whether you should not, okay, that's not
No,
your
my question was
Okay.
very clear. Yeah, a lot of stuff got in front of my question, but behind my question, but my question was very clear. What is preventing us from waiting until this person goes to get everything else they need and then comes before us and asks for us to do business in the city?
Okay.
Somebody mentioned the
Nothing is preventing you
location.
from taking that action. Again, this is your body, but again, I believe you have a business who has applied because they are putting their business in place as far as obtaining the appropriate license for the facility, purchasing the property, and you now have a pending application before you.
But it's a half of an application is my point. It's not a completed application.
And, okay, if you don't feel it's complete, you have the ability to vote no on it. My understanding is the application is complete, subject to, again, this closing on the property. And again, if you want to find out specifically where that is in process, I think now is the time to ask questions about that before you're asked to vote on the motion.
Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Rich.
I have a question that maybe the city attorney can help me with, or perhaps I don't have the ordinance in front of me. The particular portion of the zoning ordinance that refers to massage licenses. Is one of the requirements that the licensee has to actually have rented or owned the premises? Is that one of the requirements?
As indicated on our checklist, and I do not have the ordinance in front of me, one of the requirements is proof of possession of the property.
Well, in that
And my
case,
understanding is at this point, they do not have proof of possession because they are still working on the closing. And again, where they are in the process.
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Councilmember
suppose-
Rich, you still have
I
the
suppose I
floor.
would echo Councilmember Speech's concerns. The application is not complete. They don't have possession of the property. Once they possess the property and they have purchased it, or they have a lease for it, then I think it would be appropriate to consider it, but before that, it's premature.
We have a lot of people to speak. Would you like to speak? This
Yeah, I
is
just wanted to
Kim
add-
Maroney,
I just
our
wanted to-
Economic Development Director.
The person that is applying for the license has an offer on the property to purchase, which has a condition on it that they're able to get the massage license. So they wouldn't close on buying a building until they're able to get the license to operate the business that they wanted to do there. And we do have the potential owner here in the room and the representative, I believe it's the realtor here, that if you wanted to ask him any questions, he'd be happy to come up.
Right. Why don't we have them come up and you can ask them questions?
I have a comment, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Speech.
Yes, because I really feel like at this point, the council, I don't know if I'm being heard correctly, but my concern, and I appreciate that there are people that want to invest and be in Oak Park, but my concern starts with the application process. So if that part of it is not completed, the question ultimately is, okay, how does it get to us? Okay, fine, it's in front of us now. So the question goes back to, well, do they have all of the parts, all of the check boxes that we normally have? We weren't provided with, whatever section of what have you ordinance it comes out of, like the actual language. But I do know what we're supposed to have when we have a business here, which is the building and a couple of other pieces before it comes before us. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, that's not there. What is the case? I don't see how I don't understand why that's a difficult thing to, understand.
I understand your concern. I think the disconnect is, they do have a purchase agreement in place to purchase this building, but they would not purchase it if they cannot get a massage license from the city. So, it's kind of, one has to take place before they're actually gonna close on the property. So they have the purchase agreement in place. They will close on it once they have permission from city council to get the massage business license.
Have we had any other businesses to come before us like this?
Well, the massage business is different than any other business. So it has not come up because a typical business, what they would do is come to us when they apply for the business license. We approve it internally that it is zoned properly before it comes to city council for approval. And there are many cases that they haven't finished the lease agreement or purchase agreement on a property when we do approve the actual business.
So, Madam Mayor, may I?
Councilmember Radner.
If I'm understanding you correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this issue has come up before, and are you saying that it's commonplace for this body to approve a lease so long as, a license so long as there's either a lease or a purchase that's in the works that's about to be complete, and the only thing that's left that needs to be done is the license?
So I can't speak for this specific type of license because it's a massage license and has not come before me before. We get very few of them. I think the last one was the one Councilmember Speech had referenced, and that was in 2013, I believe.
I didn't mention the name, but yes.
And I don't know if there were any before that.
Okay, so let me make my
business-
question.
Yeah, business license is what I was referring
Right.
to, and we have done that in the past.
Okay, so other business licenses that are not massages, or massage parlors, we have in the past, and if I understand it
Yes.
correctly, it's commonplace that if that's the only thing that's left is that you need to get this license in order to complete the sale, purchase, lease, or whatever else it is, it's commonplace for us to approve the license conditionally.
Correct. We typically do not even require proof of a lease agreement or ownership of the building to approve a business license.
Can I ask another question? I don't know if this is for the city attorney or the city manager.
Is that the case?
How have we not only defined it in our ordinance, but historically, as a governing body, defined the term proof of possession for purposes of licenses? Please.
Councilmember Radner, first and foremost, I just obtained or received a copy of the ordinance, and what I was reading that stated we require proof of possession of property is the checklist that internally our administrative team uses, and that's what was provided to all of council in this packet. I've just taken a very quick cursory review during this discussion of the ordinance. The ordinance itself does not require proof of possession or even ownership of the premises. It just speaks to the facility having to have the premises inspected in certain conditions on the premises. So to the question of Councilmember Speech, I believe was, are they required to own or possess the property? While we have that on our checklist, that is not a requirement under the ordinance.
I didn't ask about owning or possessing, I'm saying being in it, like, are they doing business, are they ready to do business in the facility? And that's not 82309 Mile Road? It's contingent on them having a lease, right?
The ordinance does not say that. That's my point.
That
Your
they don't
earlier
have
question
to?
to me was that required? And I stated it was because I was reading off of a requirements checklist. However, when I look at the ordinance, it does not say they must present proof of possession. And I can pass this down if you like.
Madam Mayor?
Councilmember Rich.
I just pulled up the ordinance on my iPad. License procedure, I think, is section 22403. And it talks about the application. And it says, it's sub-paragraph. Where is it? There's a sub-paragraph that says that the applicant has to provide all, sub-paragraphs, where does it see? It's hard to tell here. Any information set forth in the applications, it's sub-paragraph 1C. Does the application itself have the information regarding possession or ownership? Under paragraph, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, you know, it's hard to tell looking on the computer.
Can I?
Do we want to table this? Would we like to, can this wait?
I don't know if it can wait. What is the conditions on your closing of the property? So no, it cannot wait.
Can I ask another question, please?
Councilmember Radner.
Does this particular business have any other locations?
Can you gentlemen come up, can you come up to the mic, because the people at home can only hear you if you're speaking through the microphone?
I'm Fred Lindholm, a real estate broker with Real Estate One, and we have the building under contract. We have had it under contract for over 2 months. And Mrs. Wang has operated massage parlors, massage businesses in Farmington Hills and 2 in Troy. And
Currently?
No, she has done that
Previously.
in the past.
Yeah.
She has operated those businesses and got them going good, and then has sold them to other people. Her intention this time is to, I'm not sure what she's gonna do with it, but I know she's gonna operate the building. Right at this point, it doesn't make any sense to, and we have complied with all the requirements that the city has put for that license. There are some things we're gonna have to do after you approve it. Obviously, the building is not appropriate right now for the business. We're gonna have to remodel that building, and right at now, I know it's over $30,000 or more, in addition to the money we're purchasing the building for, and so forth. So that, and those would have, those remodeling plans and the remodeling itself would have to be approved by your building and engineering department. But I assure you, she's operated businesses for quite a few years and wants to do that here.
May I follow up with a question?
Councilmember Radner.
Ms. Wang, have you ever had any legal issues with some of the other, well, let me ask it this way. Have your other places of business ever been charged, indicted, raided, anything like that? When we hear massage, this is the invisible elephant, okay? When we hear massage parlor, there are concerns that people have. Have any of the other businesses ever been criminally charged, indicted, or investigated for criminal activity?
We wouldn't be here if that was the case, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Because that's things that we put in the application, and I'm sure your police department and so forth has already reviewed those.
Thank you.
And talked to the other cities.
Thank you.
She has a license from the state as a massage therapist. She's been that for a long time. She was trained in her country of China at a hospital and worked a long time there. And then she's been here in the United States doing the same thing. So that she has complied with all the requirements. Obviously, after those things are, after the building has been remodeled and approved and so forth to meet the requirements that are in the ordinance, the ordinance is 4 or 5 pages long. It's got a lot of requirements. And we'll have to meet the rest of those requirements, and then you can give us the business license to do that. Right now, your approval is conditional on those other things happening after.
Madam Mayor, is there currently a motion pending?
I can't remember. City Clerk Ed Norris, do we have a motion?
No.
No.
I'd like to
okay.
make a motion at this time to approve the license.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Is there
Support.
discussion?
Can we amend it to make it conditional on everything being done that they just said?
I think that is in there.
It's already in the application, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
I think that's what the
It's in
clerk
the
has already
application.
said.
Yes.
Where are we now? Do we have, are we ready to vote?
I am ready to vote.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Councilmember Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
No.
Councilmember Speech.
No.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Welcome to Oak Park.
Welcome, yeah, welcome to Oak
Welcome to
Park.
Oak
It was a
Park.
little
Thank you.
rough, but,
We appreciate it.
okay. Moving on, wow. Accounting reports, approval for payment of invoices submitted by Garen Luco Miller PC for legal services in the total amount of $8,437. We have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Moved in support. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes.
Councilmember Radner.
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Councilmember Speech. Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Yes.
A motion carried. Approval for payment of an invoice submitted by Seacrest, Wardle, Lynch, Hampton, Truex, and Morley for legal services in the amount of $304. A motion for payment, please.
So moved.
Support?
Discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Radner?
Yes.
Councilmember Rich?
Yes.
Councilmember Speech?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns?
Yes.
Mayor McClellan?
Yes. Motion carried. Item C, this is from Consulting for approval of payment of an invoice submitted by Paul H. Gross for research and consulting services pertaining to case number 15-147795-NZ in the amount of $1,800. We need a motion to approve this payment.
So moved.
Second.
And now we need discussion. What is this payment for? And
Madam Mayor?
let's see, Councilmember Rich.
I believe Mr. Gross is an expert in weather phenomenon, and that it's probably involved with the weather conditions on a particular day, involved with some particular litigation. I've just recognized his name from
Got it.
other matters in my legal career.
Okay, is that an explanation that we can live with? Yes? Related to a case. All right. Any further discussion?
And Madam Mayor,
Please.
if I could probably infer, the bill looks appropriate to me from what I've seen in other matters for
Thank you.
similar experts.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Rich?
Yes.
Councilmember Speech?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns?
Yes.
Mayor McClellan?
Yes?
Councilmember Radner?
Yes.
Motion carried. We are now on to the city attorney portion. City Attorney Ebony Duff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. Under item 14A, I have a recommendation for amendments to the City Council Rules of Procedure. I know this council has had those rules since the start of this council year, but we have not actually had a full discussion on the rules. But they were under review under the last two prior meetings. We had two committee issues that dealt with the council rules. And looking at the issue at that time, the clerk's office in particular noted that there were a few clerical or administrative revisions that needed to be made. They're set forth in the memorandum you have there, and it's also a red line copy of the rules attached with the proposed changes. Essentially, we are just updating the agenda items within the rules to properly reflect how your body does business. This is deleting words about publishing the notification of the meetings in the newspaper because it's not required per the Open Meetings Act, and we never do it in regular practice. We're also updating, as I stated, the order of business just to reflect your consent agenda and some other items in the order that we usually hold them. And then the last is to eliminate, you had a time limit on public comments, which again, were not required and we never followed anyway. So this is just a bit of housekeeping. And if it meets with your approval, I would recommend that you adopt the recommended changes on those three items to section 2F, 4D, and 5B2 as stated in my recommendation.
Okay, motion to accept these three amendments.
So moved.
Support.
And moved and supported. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
The second item is a memorandum that was submitted to council for agenda this evening by Councilmember Rich. Just briefly, this is a request to also modify the city council bylaws with respect to section 11A. You all have been provided with a memorandum, I believe, in advance of the meeting, and absent any further questions, I can turn this over to Councilmember Rich if he'd like to make a comment or statement regarding the request.
Councilmember Rich.
Oh, all I did here was add a few words to the excused absence from meetings so that persons do not have to feel that they are constrained to choose between their religious obligations and an appearance at a meeting. So that should be an excused absence. And of course, we had previously their illness of a close relative, also death of a close relative seems appropriate, so I added that language. I sent it out, I don't know, a week ago. and had asked as a courtesy if anyone had any objection to it. I didn't hear any objections, and I would move it at this time that we amend 11A of the bylaws accordingly.
So you're asking for 3 changes, adding or via email so that nobody
No,
has to,
That one, no, I talked about that with the city attorney. I had writing or via email. The city attorney said emails are writing, so we just leave it at writing.
oh, okay, don't even have to, email counts as writing, so
Yeah.
we don't have to put that one in. So you're adding just illness or death of a close relative, you're adding the 2 words "or death." And you're adding "or because of a religious holiday or the eve of a religious holiday be an excused absence." Motion let's see, do we have a motion for this
Yes.
amendment? Yes, and we have a second. Discussion or questions? We don't have a second. Do we have a second?
I was a second.
A council member speech, seconds. Discussion or questions? Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I just need a little clarity. Personal illness. What is considered personal illness? That could be a headache or a toothache and that wouldn't, I don't get what is personal illness. That needs to be a little bit more defined. I would just like everyone to keep in mind that we only meet twice a month. It is my expectation that unless I am hospitalized or a family member is in the hospital, I will be at my city council meetings. Not saying that these are frivolous reasons, but I just think that we need to be extremely careful to adjust rules that have been in place for years in regards to the attendance. Personal illness, that could be anything.
May I, Madam Mayor?
Or because of a...
Councilmember Rich. Yep.
Oh,
Do you mind, did you finish?
No.
Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry, I
Let's let
apologize
you
for
finish, and then we'll
interrupting.
follow with Councilmember Rich.
Okay, or because of a religious holiday or the eve of a religious holiday.
Right.
That could be determined, I mean, if we have 4 different religions, if I'm a Buddhist, you're another religion, and we could all have our different holidays, and we could, I just don't think this is not a good idea in regards to the attendance, but
If you are Orthodox, you may not come to a meeting on certain named religious holidays. You may not break the holiday unless it's a question of death. And so,
I get that.
yeah,
I get
okay.
that, I understand that, but everyone on the council is not Orthodox Jewish.
Right.
And that's not to say that 4, 5, 6 years from now, excuse me, we'll still have the same type of makeup.
Well, you know, each council makes its own rules. So it's only for this 2-year term that we're talking. At the beginning of the next 2-year term, we can make new rules. We can change these rules. So this isn't anything written in blood. It's for just for these 2 years. Council member speech.
Yes. First to Councilman Rich. I had already talked to you about this over the phone, so that's why I didn't reply to the email. You kind of already knew. I wanted to share with everyone else. First, regarding the personal illnesses, I am inclined to agree with Mayor Pro Tem. Maybe that wording should be serious personal illness or something that indicates there has to be some type of an emergency. But either way, you know, we do have these two times in the month that we meet for sure. It's starting to become maybe a few more hours earlier than we usually do because we have special meetings. But when it comes to the religious holidays, there are a number of us on the council that may have various religions or practice in different ways. But when that impacts the way the city runs, I always consider that the fact that it doesn't just impact me, it also impacts who might have to be there and I'm not there, what city employees have to be there, et cetera. So
Can I just clarify that this is not requiring anybody to change the meeting? This is just allowing the people who can't be there to have an excused absence.
I
We're
understand.
not impacting anybody else.
Well, I understand that. My line of thinking is it would impact an issue, if, say, for example, one or two or three people can't be here because of religion, then there becomes religious holiday, there becomes not a quorum.
Okay, well
So
then,
that's how it
then you
would
have
impact it.
solved it that way. You've solved it that way.
How's that
If there's
solved?
if there's three people not here, we don't have a quorum, we can't have a meeting. This is
But we're
just
required to
saying
have two
that
meetings per month.
we're just saying that well, we have to change the date.
Isn't that already happening in this Rosh Hashanah?
Yes,
There's not gonna be a quorum, so
That's
we're gonna
right.
have to reschedule the meeting.
correct,
In fact, I think we already did, didn't we?
right, right. And this is not saying anything about rescheduling any meetings. This is only saying that the people who can't come have an excused absence because they can't be there.
Madam
It's only,
Mayor?
only allowing the absence to be excused. It's not changing any meetings. It's not changing the dates of the meetings at all. It's only excusing the absence. So say 2 people are absent, 3 people are here, we have a quorum, we have a meeting, but their absence is marked excused. And that's all we're voting on.
Madam Mayor,
Councilmember Rich.
with regard to the amendment, I will note that the term personal illness is already in the bylaws. I made no change to that.
Right.
That language is already in there.
Mhm.
With regard to the excused absence for a council member who happens to be an employee of the city, for that person to have an excused absence as opposed to suffer the consequence of the absence being unexcused, and it is an adverse employment consequence, as I'm sure our city attorney would opine, there's serious and significant civil rights issues involved if this body would not excuse the absence of somebody for religious reasons.
Okay, let's
I can
do
go
it
into
one at a
I can
time.
go into it.
Can we do
no,
these
No,
ex-
I made my motion to have it done exactly as I wrote it. That's the motion.
Okay,
The motion is
okay,
exactly as I
are we
wrote
ready
it.
to vote
There's
then?
already been support.
Okay,
from
we're ready to
Councilmember
vote.
Speech.
Council, roll call, please. This is to amend Section 11A of the City Council bylaws as written.
Councilmember Speech?
I'm sorry,
I
Madam
have
Mayor.
a question.
Yes,
I have a question.
yes?
I just want to be clear. So we're about to vote because people are uncomfortable talking about it further, or what's the reason that we couldn't continue the discussion? I had my hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand up. Go right ahead.
If there is an issue with an employee, because we are employees of the city, my question was going to be, or is,
You are actually compensated elected officials, not employees of the city.
oh, that was going to be my question. When did we become employees of the city?
You
But
are not.
If we are, why are we even voting on it then? Why isn't it just, we follow the rules of the city manager and what the rest of the employees follow? That was my question.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
I have a question.
Yes.
In the bylaws where it discusses dates that you're allowed to have meetings and dates that you're not allowed to have meetings, one of the things that it says you're not allowed to have meetings on is holidays. Do we have a definition of holidays?
Federal holidays
It doesn't say, I don't think it says federal
or
holidays.
national holidays. I think it says nationally recognized holidays or federal holidays. And what I normally do, if the banks are closed, if the schools are closed, if there's no mail, then that's a federal holiday.
So our city attorney actually prepared a memo on this topic and opined that since it is not defined, we borrowed the definition from the traffic part of the ordinances, if I recall correctly.
No? No.
Defined. Right, okay, I'm sorry, holidays is defined 3 different times in the ordinance. Each one of those times, it includes, if I recall correctly, or at least one of the times for sure, and I don't have it in front of me right now, Sunday is included in the definition of a holiday, at least for traffic purposes. And at least for the part of the ordinances where you see the word holiday, it includes Sunday. When you see the word holiday in certain parts of the ordinance, you can assume that Sunday is included. That's a fact,
Okay.
it's explicit.
Um,
As a result of that, to not give the same protections to holidays of another religion, as Mr. Rich was saying, I think that opens up tremendous
I think
civil rights
this is a
problems.
different discussion. This is
This is what we're
just,
discussing right now.
no, this is not what we're discussing right now. We can discuss that another time, but folks, this is just the city council bylaws. This is not, we're just not into that mire yet. So I would like to vote on this issue and then have that discussion at another time when we can have a study session perhaps and have more time to discuss it.
It's shocking to me that this has to be brought to vote.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Councilmember Speech,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
No.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Let's move on. City Manager Eric Tungate, please handle the next section.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. On a lighter note, so I wanted to just give a very brief State of the City address recap. I thought the event was wonderful. The city shined. For those that couldn't be there, I know we've had some audio issues, but if you go to Ustream or YouTube or on the city's website, I believe, okay, I'm getting a head nod back there, you can now get the repaired audio video version of the State of the City address. A couple quick things that the city's going to be undertaking. One is a sunflower planting project. We talked about the city's budget. And then the best, at least in my opinion, I think probably members of council share this with me, is our new restaurant that will be locating on 8 Mile Road in the old WWJ radio tower building. We're very excited about that. Union Joints is the developer of that property. That's all I had, council members, unless there are questions. I think it was a fabulous event.
It was excellent, and I'm glad to hear that the audio problem has been resolved.
Thank you, staff. That did a
I think
great
our IT department is meeting with the company that installed it, and we're delighted that this is going to get passed around to everyone in the department. And hopefully that's the last audio difficulty that we'll have.
Oh, I would hope so, but I'm not gonna hold my breath on it. Madam Mayor, members of council, 15B, if I could have the Assistant City Manager join me at the podium.
Thank you. Please find attached a request from Michigan Joint Sealing, Inc., the contractor for the 2015 Joint and Crack Sealing Project, M604. They have indicated they would like to extend their unit prices for this project to perform the 2016 Joint and Crack Sealing Project, M622. It is recommended City Council approve the offer for the contract extension to Michigan Joint Sealing, Inc. for the total amount of $99,808.93 for the 2016 Joint and Crack Sealing Project, M622. Funding is available in the local street fund for this expenditure.
Okay. Motion, please, to approve this offer.
So moved?
Support.
Questions? Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Speech.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. If I could have our Finance Director, Carl Johnson, join me for 15C, and council members, just so you recall, this is the follow-up that, this is going back now a few months, but we wanted to make sure that we provided very detailed changes in the investment policy, that the initial version is the clean version, and then the second version behind that is the marked up version. Carl, if you'd walk us through just a few of those maybe, or unless council members have questions.
Right.
Yeah,
So just because I had the same question, the first one is the clean copy, the final copy, and the second one with the red lines is the draft that shows all of the changes. And I assume we will be going through the draft, page one?
I didn't intend to go through them, but we actually can. So as the mayor pointed out, let me just, in overview, make sure you understand what you have in front of you. So back in November, I submitted a proposed amendment to our city's investment policy. It is, as pointed out, the first 4 pages on here. So it's really not that long. It's actually on the 4th page, most of its definitions. So it is a 4-page document with an Appendix A and an Appendix B attached. At that time, I was asked to literally dig out our old investment policy, which was last amended June 1st, 1998, and provide a red line version. What was very interesting was this didn't exist in Excel or Word or anything like that. Not sure computers existed back in 1998 or whatever. But so what I did is I copied this PDF and went through it and lined out the existing language to show you, again, this is our existing policy, the one that says Oak Park Investment Policy amended 1998, and it is 13 pages long. That is our current existing investment policy. So as you can imagine, since 1998, there's been significant changes to it. And bottom line, the underlying premise of the investment policy is really in Appendix A of what I'm proposing. The state of Michigan requires Oak Park and all Michigan municipalities to only invest in allowable investments as they define them. So it's very restrictive. It's called Public Act 20. And Appendix A is the entire Act 20, which details out the type of investments, any and every investment we're allowed to invest in. And Appendix B is our list of institutions that the Treasurer's Office as well as the Finance Office would be reviewing these banks, these investment companies, to make sure they meet our qualifications, i.e. the qualifications that the state has laid out for us, to make sure that they are sound banks, sound investment institutions, and that we can invest our money in. So the rest of this is kind of boilerplate, and it just kind of defines which funds we can invest in, what our policy is, and obviously the most important thing is protection of the assets, but really Public Act 20 itself is extremely restrictive. Most of it is covered by insurance, and it has to be the highest grade of type investments, and there's literally almost no risk of losing any principal in these investments. So that is what they allow us to invest in, and that's what we just want to mirror here. So it was really less of let's take the old investment policy and hack it up, and more of let's get the current existing investment policy that really most municipalities, if you pulled out any other Ferndale's or Canton's or Novi's or any other place's investment policy, it would pretty much mirror what we have right here, because again, it's extremely restrictive as far as what we can invest in.
It's so vastly different from the old one.
Yeah,
I wondered why all the deletions and why all the changes.
Again, a lot of the old ones, it was, let's make sure there's a page and a half of internal controls. Well, that's standard operating procedure that's tested by our auditors. That doesn't need to be in our investment policy. The standard investment policy says you will use prudence, you will use judgment, you will common person. There's language spelled out by the state that says this is the type of prudence you need. And again, the goals of it, again, are all the same. And you can see the goals laid out on, what page is that? Page 2 at the top there. Conformance, safety of capital, liquidity, return on investment, and diversification. Again, that is the same controls that are in that document from 16 years ago, except they use 3 pages to spell out all of those different things, so it's really, to me, the meat of it's all still there. It's just kind of compacts it and really brings it up to the 21st century. So, and that was the goal. So I'd be happy to answer, why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? But that's what I want to make sure you saw the old one.
Do we have a motion to approve first? City Clerk? Nope. Motion to approve this investment policy.
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Okay. Discussion or questions for the finance director? No? No? Everybody's happy?
Love it.
Okay.
So just, if you could vote to approve it, I guess, would be the next one.
Right. Do we need a roll call? Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Motion carried.
Madam Mayor, members of council, Director Johnson, if you could also do 15D, please.
So 15D is really request from the school district. So Berkeley Schools, as part of our tax collection. So as you know, annually we levy taxes July 1st and December 1st each year. And not only do we collect our taxes, but we collect the counties, the states, and the school districts as well. We have several school districts. Berkeley has their board, their school board, actually pass a resolution basically asking us to collect their taxes. So this is not a requirement. It is just something that they want to do to make it clear that they are requesting us to levy and collect their taxes. The agreement also says, which is really the state requirements, that we collect it, and every 15 days we disperse it. We disperse that regardless of any of these agreements. We disperse it according to the state's required schedule, which is every 15 days, and annually they spell out a schedule of when we have to disperse those funds, which we follow. So what this is our formal recognition of agreeing to collect their taxes. We charge a 1% administration fee to our entire tax bill, so all of those. And so this isn't something new, a new revenue stream. It's just acknowledging the fact that we will levy and collect their taxes, forwarded to them timely as required by the state, and the 1% admin fee related to theirs, we get to levy and keep ourselves.
Wonderful. So do we have a request to approve this agreement?
So moved.
Do we have a
Support.
second? Moved and supported. Discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I do have a question.
Yes.
If that's okay.
Councilmember Red.
The 1% administrative fee is 1% of what? The full amount or the amount collected?
Of the tax bill,
Of the tax bill?
yes.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, so that's a city, the city has the option to levy up to 1% for an administrative fee on the entire tax bill. And so
And-
that is what we do.
Is that gonna be enough to cover it, or are we still gonna lose money on it? Or do we not know?
Well, yeah, this isn't, you don't make money on this, it just helps offset some of the departmental costs. So,
Okay.
yeah, there's really not an analysis of it. You know, we've always administered the 1%, so, and we can't go anymore even if we want to, so.
Your opinion, though, is that we're gonna lose money on this or not lose money on
Well,
this?
so remember, all it does is go to offset our treasury staff who collect the bills, who issue the bills, your time for approving agreements like this, budgets for, you know, the revenues for that, and
I
all of
think-
those kind of things.
Although I would just weigh in, I think it's probably safe to say it would be a break-even scenario here.
Okay, just wanna make sure we're not losing money on this. that's
I
all.
understand.
Yeah.
I
I'm all for
appreciate
doing
that.
favors, but
I would like it to be a 10% admin fee personally, but,
no, can we amend the motion?
yeah.
Troublemaker.
State might have a say on that one, though, so.
All right.
I don't have a question.
Question, Councilmember Speech.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I remember us asking you to bring this back, and you did so, the one before. You did so well on, putting it in layman's terms and helping me to understand, so I just want to thank you for that.
Okay, like I say, my goal is to make you all understand, and you're gonna love me at budget time when I tell you how simple it all is and how life is good, and, you know, like I say, that's the biggest thing, that you all understand. Doesn't matter if we do, you guys are the ones that have to understand and vote on this stuff, so I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay. We ready to vote? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
And Madam Mayor, members of council, I wanted to also just remind you that I did distribute the budget calendar that we will be following per this year's budget. I believe that we'll be bringing, my draft budget will be in front of you on April 18th and then again on May 2nd, with hopefully a final adoption on May 16th. As far as the next agenda item, 15E.
Before that, I wonder if we have special recognition and presentations for closure prevention presentation, Oakland County Treasurer's Office. We have a representative, actually, this Oakland County Treasurer here now. And with your permission, we could get him in before this long discussion and get him out to his baby. All right, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Sorry for the miscue. We do have a baby, and so I'm not sleeping, and I'm denser than normal when I'm not sleeping, so that's really saying something. But Madam Mayor, members of the council, distinguished members of the staff, and great team that makes Oak Park great, as well as the citizens. I'm Andy Meisner. I'm your county treasurer, and wanted to take a brief moment to share a public service message regarding a very important deadline that is coming up on this March 31st. On March 31st of this year, people who have delinquent property taxes dating from 2013 or prior can lose their property to tax foreclosure. And that is a very serious matter. And so I'm personally getting out to a number of communities just to sound the alarm and to remind the citizens of Oak Park, whether it is a residential or a commercial property, that we offer payment plans for eligible properties. Not in every circumstance. You know, I'm gonna wanna make sure that the property is being taken care of. But we do have over 7,000 active payment plans around the county right now. And so if you know you want to save your property, now is the opportunity to do that. After March 1st, there's nothing that or March 31st, forgive me. After March 31st, there is nothing that I can do. The law is very clear on that. So whether it's reaching out to neighbors that might be in a difficult financial situation, if it's talking to people at our church or place of worship, now is the time to reach out and to say that County Treasurer doesn't bite. He's very interested in working with you, and that in some instances we offer a monthly payment as low as $25 a month. So if somebody is willing to demonstrate a commitment to paying off those delinquencies, we are going to work with them. So our office number is 248-858-0611. Again, that's 248-858-0611. My personal cell phone is 248-421-ANDY. 248-421-ANDY. You can call me directly. Just please do so before April 1st. Okay, good. And, you know, the impact on the community from foreclosures is serious. As county treasurer, I've been on a mission to try to boost property values. And thank goodness Oak Park is seeing a nice recovery in property values. But
14% this year.
14%. So after what we've been through, you know, not only is foreclosure prevention, I think, the moral and ethical thing to do, but it's also in the city and the county's best financial interest. Our website is oakgov.com/treasurer. And again, if you have delinquent taxes from 2013 or prior, please connect with your county treasurer immediately. And I would just say I appreciated the recitation about Public Act 20. As the Chief Investment Officer for Oakland County, we are also governed by that statute. And I think that perhaps the simplest way that I've heard that statute described is in terms of three terms. One, safety first. That the essence of Public Act 20 is safety first. This isn't like the pension fund where you're trying to gain earnings. You're trying to avoid any loss. Next, liquidity. You need to make sure that you have money to meet your cash flow demands. Then only after those two elements have been satisfied can you even consider yield or, you know, generating any earnings on your money. So it was nice to hear that from your finance director, and would be happy to entertain any questions about the foreclosure deadline, which is impending, or any matter that is of interest before this august body.
Any questions for our Oakland County Treasurer?
Can you objectively say that you have the cutest baby in the world?
Yeah, and it can also give you some objective comments about Mayor Grandma
Yeah.
as well, but I'll refrain.
Grandma can assure you that it is the cutest baby.
Objectively.
Yeah.
It's always mom's fault, of course.
Yes.
It's,
And the brightest. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
Okay,
taking your time to
thank
come
you,
in.
Madam
And
Mayor, Mr. City Manager, and members of the council, thank you kindly.
thank you for everything you've done that had never been done before for Oakland County. A lot of innovation from this Oakland County treasurer, another perfectly objective opinion.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Madam Mayor, members of council, I'm just going to move forward here with 15E, F, and G. I wanted to just, before I turned it over to our city attorney and council member speech, I believe, and just to set the stage back to a memo that my staff submitted regarding hookah lounges in December of 2014. This was a memo that was noting these as a use in other cities nearby and otherwise that was causing some concern. One of the examples of a moratorium that was put forward here by staff as a recommendation was West Bloomfield, and they put a 180-day moratorium on these particular uses. The request, and I don't know, Madam City Attorney, if you want to handle this one, or Councilmember Speech, but the request is to put an 8-month moratorium on smoking lounges, which this, I believe, would fall into, correct? That's correct. And that is similar to West Bloomfield in terms of studying the issue. Is it a use that would be allowable in different districts versus others?
Just to briefly follow up on that, the city administration, as city manager indicated, has recommended placement of a moratorium on the smoking lounges, specifically for the reason that we currently do not address them at all in our city ordinances. We have been looking at possibly making some revisions to our zoning ordinance, but it is a question of, one, where do they fit, if they fit, and then what, if any, type of limitations we believe are important to our community that we would want to institute before, again, permitting these types of establishments. So the initial thought was that we do issue a moratorium on accepting any applications or any of these types of facilities until we do prepare that legislation, or possibly make a recommendation to our planning commission to have some further study or discussion. City administration, I am meeting with them this week, actually, to begin discussions on exactly what type of changes to our legislation we may need, or what kind of recommendations will be made. But in the interim, Councilmember Speech has provided you all with detailed memorandums of why these issues are pertinent to our city at this time, and support for issuing the moratoriums as requested. The one item I'd like to point out before Councilmember Speech, if she wants to add comment, is just that there was a note initially on the moratorium recommendation for the medical marijuana facilities, and just note that at this time, we're only proposing the moratorium, but not the recommended fine and other penalties at this time.
Okay. Okay, let's take them one at a time. Item E, motion to institute an 8-month moratorium on smoke lounges, hookah cafes, hookah bars, cigar bars, or the like, collectively smoke lounge type establishments. So we need a motion first.
So moved.
We need a second.
Second.
Okay. Discussion or questions? Mine is, I guess, why are they two separate things, the other smoke-type establishments? Are they different, widely different?
I can address it.
Yes.
So, one of the things is each one of these are actually operations that are businesses that are already out there, but the category wasn't, there wasn't a name for the category, so that's why I put it in quotation marks, smoke lounge type establishments. That's not an official name or anything. But as the attorney Duff mentioned, there's no zoning, we don't permit these types of things right now in the city. But I'm very aware that we already had one instance where someone requested it. And I'm also very aware of what other cities are dealing with, and how they're currently zoning, to prevent some of the things, unwanted, nuisances in their communities that may come from having these type of establishments. And so with that in mind, and also with the understanding of what Oak Park, is trying to have as far as their community goes, I did want to put this forth now. It's kind of a proactive approach instead of a reactive approach. And Mayor, without going into too much detail for the audience's sake, I did put down a little bit of background or basis in my comments on the memo, but the moratorium would be for 8 months. I originally, I had thought it should be 12 months, but when I looked at it a little more, 8 months will give the administration, first, it'll give them time to get through the current election cycle and also the next presidential election cycle that's coming up, in addition to our budgeting cycle. So that's where the time frame came from for me. The 120 days would just put them right into the middle of some more administrative things that were going on. So I wanted to give them sufficient time. Then I found out that after the 12 months also, I found out that they were already investigating one of these moratoriums that I'm proposing, so which is the smoke lounges. But for all of these types, smoke lounges, hookah cafes, hookah bars, cigar bars, or anything like them, just an 8-month moratorium before we consider or allow any type of applications or decide what to do with anything like it. Because after the recommendations from administration, once they're able to research it, I don't know how it will go, but just at this point, you know, I feel like the city should be prepared to basically be able to say, we're not doing that right now, so that the administration can take a look at it and do research.
Okay.
I have a question.
Councilmember Radner.
Do our current ordinances permit these three things or not?
No.
No.
Then does this moratorium add anything other than, I mean, if we amend our ordinances, short of amending our ordinances to permit them, do these moratoriums add anything, or is it just our way of kind of saying, we really don't like these things? Which I'm not against.
Mm-mm. So,
Can we have just a comment from the city attorney?
I wrote it.
Can you answer that? Okay.
Okay, so the reason I put them forth, the zoning ordinances right now, as I was explained, as the attorney explained it to me, and as I read the zoning ordinances, it's more of a, if it's not in there, then it doesn't, then we don't allow it. So right now, technically, there is nothing in there that allows for smoke. There's no zoning in Oak Park that allows for smoking lounges. And, you know, so we could say no. But my concern was, can someone poke holes in that? You're not saying you can't, you're just saying, you know, so there's a lot of issues there, I felt. So instead of having holes, and because I'm aware of literally at least 4 other municipalities around Oak Park who have developed very strong ordinances around these type of establishments, I know they have to go somewhere. My thought was, well, until we're sure about what we want to do with them, I don't want, you know, them to find a hole here. And then what if our community decides that they're not necessarily the right fit? Or what if we decide we only want a certain number of ordinances for a certain type of business? We haven't talked about that as a council or a community yet. So to me, the solution was, let's put a moratorium on it until we look at this closely. And that gives the administration and the zoning board, whoever, time to look at it and come to council for it.
So can I ask a follow-up question, please? Is a moratorium stronger than the ordinances that we have? Because my understanding is you can apply for a variance and then try to get one of these licenses. Would this moratorium stop that, or can you still apply for a variance even if the moratorium's in place?
The moratorium will stop it completely. A
Okay.
moratorium is more of just a stopgap measure, basically saying that the city at this time is not accepting any applications. We are not considering any type of request with respect to this business. And our stated issue is that we're doing our due diligence to, again, take action, effectively amend our zoning ordinance or create some space in the city for them. And again, I don't know what the recommended action is gonna be because we haven't got to that point, but no, a moratorium is a hard and fast, we are no longer accepting them from the date you pass this resolution, if you choose to do so, through that 8-month period.
Then one last question, if I may, please. We have some of the finest officers in all of Michigan that I've encountered here in Oak Park, which is lucky for us, I guess. What do they think of this? Are they in favor of this moratorium?
I do not believe they have been consulted on this issue at this point. I do know that we had meeting with public safety, and it's 3 separate issues. If I could back up just a bit, I believe the mayor may have asked, what's the difference between the one that talks about smoke lounges versus smoke shop? The smoke lounge, which was the issue we initially wanted to address from administration, is an actual on-premise, on the site, smoking and engaging in the activities that are provided by the establishment. The smoke shop, my understanding, is more geared to, again, those that are just selling the items for commercial sale, but you cannot actually use on the premises. Again, I don't think that public safety has looked into that issue specifically. The last item was the medical marijuana dispensaries and grow facilities. Administration and legal department, public safety did have a meeting on that issue. At that time, we did undertake a review of our zoning ordinances and felt that they are strong enough to withstand any attempts to locate those types of businesses in the city. But again, I believe Councilmember Speech is just taking a step back and wanting to look at all of these, which are somewhat related, and ask the question, do we need some other type of legislation?
Can I just ask, how long do you think you would need is 8 months too long, too short?
No, I think 8 months at least would be appropriate, because
Okay.
as I stated, we were starting this process and we're meeting this week. I anticipate that we're gonna brainstorm and have some solid recommendations, possibly even by your next meeting. Again, but what they are remains to be seen.
So is that, you do need 8 months?
Yes.
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 Okay. Other questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
What will be the cost involved for getting the moratoriums in regards to staffing costs, research, labor costs? I know there's some cost involved, and I'm just trying to ascertain if it's worth the cost.
Yeah. Well, I'll,
research from legal.
Somebody has to research it.
and,
Oh,
yeah,
she's covered,
essentially
okay.
it's gonna be your legal staff, which, you know, we have us under retainer, and then quite frankly, it's your administrative staff. As you know, your Director of Community and Economic Development is very aggressive and proactive, and, my understanding is the recommendation was made from our city planner to her initially. She took the lead in developing some background initial information, and, I don't think there's gonna be a significant extra cost to the city at all.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Are we ready to vote on the first one?
Madam Mayor, if I could.
Yes.
As long as the city attorney doesn't have an issue with it, to me, I would see no reason why you couldn't lump all of these specifics into one motion.
Okay. Everybody comfortable with that?
Well, I do have an amendment to one of them.
Except for that last one, yeah, that's a good point, the
There's
fine.
there's 2 amendments. Yeah.
To
But
your
they're
own
bo-
motion?
But they're both with the
They're both-
marijuana.
No, there's amendment on F and an amendment on G.
Yep, and I was gonna say, yes, my opinion, I would prefer that you do them separately, because again, we're talking about separate business types, and just, there's gonna be different recommendations most likely with them, so I would request that they're separate action, and as Councilmember Speech indicated, there's gonna be a bit of a modification from the motions as stated in the document.
Okay. So, we need a motion to institute the 8-month moratorium on the smoke lounges.
Madam Mayor, we do have a motion already
We have
on
a motion,
15E.
and we have
a
it second?
Mhm.
Okay, further discussion on that piece of it? Nope, ready to vote. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Speech,
Yes?
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan.
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next is a motion to institute the moratorium on the smoke shop establishments that sell the items. We need someone to make a motion.
You wanna make the motion?
So
Yes,
moved.
oh,
So moved.
Before we discuss it.
Second?
So,
think-
I'm sorry, if I can, just for a point of order, I believe Councilmember Speech wanted to amend this motion so that the motion reads, it is a motion to institute an 8-month moratorium on smoke shops and vapor shops, eliminating the last section, sale of e-cigarettes.
Okay. So, do we need to amend it or just read it as that?
That is the motion.
Okay, the motion is to institute an 8-month moratorium on smoke shops and vapor shops.
Support.
So moved.
We got a movement, a support, discussion or questions? We're ready to vote? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rich,
Yes.
Councilmember Speech,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes,
Councilmember Radner.
That's a yes.
okay, motion carried.
Madam
Now-
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Question about councilmember Speech.
Yes. Attorney Duff, I know we were talking earlier about the smoke shops. Did we get a answer on whether,
I have not received an answer to that
Okay.
question yet, but that
So-
is part of the diligence that we will conduct
okay.
during our review.
So, these moratoriums, I just want to point out, if I'm correct, these are for new establishments, anything that will be coming, into the city. Or trying to come in.
Yep. You can't legislate something that's there, so
Correct.
yeah, definitely coming. Do we have a motion for this medical marijuana grow facilities? No.
So, I'll make a motion to institute an 8-month moratorium on medical marijuana grow facilities and medical marijuana dispensaries and the like.
Okay, ending right there. Great.
Okay, so the last part is
Yep.
being taken away.
Yep.
Okay.
Support.
Support. Great. Discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Speech,
Yes. I'm sorry, you said
Yes.
it so quickly. I had a discussion point.
Oh, another discussion point?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You said discussion or questions, I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Can I,
Absolutely.
Mr. Clerk? I have something to say, so, okay. So, I just want to be clear with the audience that, this is for the actual facilities that would grow, the medical marijuana or that would sell it. That we're saying there's a moratorium on that. It is still, and if the city attorney would explain, as far as the personal, who is allowed to, in the home, the residential, caretakers. I'm sorry, I don't remember the titles of the individuals, but if they have a medical marijuana license, that's not preventing them from having it themselves. Caretakers,
I
thank
believe
you.
you're speaking to, we do currently have a prohibition in our zoning ordinance that a home caregiver, which is a licensed occupation under the state's Medical Marijuana Act, our city ordinances specifically have a prohibition that is not an allowed, business use in the home, which is an appropriate regulation of that portion of the act. Is that?
Yes, thank you. I wanted you to intimate that because these two things are separate, but we do have a rule, for that as well.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Speech,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns,
Yes.
Mayor McClellan,
Yes.
Councilmember Radner,
Yes.
Councilmember Rich.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
Madam Mayor, members of council, that completes the city manager report. I'd like to remind you, though, that after the call to the audience and call to council, we do have a closed session.
Yes. Okay. Next, we have call to the audience. Please give us your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
I hope I can. Joyce Bannon, 10611 Troy. Okay, I've got a few things, so I hope I can do it in 3 minutes. Water bills. This increase that you're talking about, does that also include the Detroit, or is that Detroit is gonna be on top of what the city is talking about when you come to approve it. Because I have a lot of problems with the water bills. Last year, my water bill, round figures, was $100. In January this year, it was $200. So that's already that much of an increase. And now you're talking about increasing it even that much more. So you're 7%, 10%, 12%, whatever it is that with Detroit? Or is Detroit going to add theirs on again on top of what you're talking about for the water? That's where my concern is. I know you don't have to answer me.
We'll, at the end, we'll get
Okay.
answers to all of it.
Okay, my next question is, yes, state of the, city address. Many senior citizens I heard from told me about how not having any audio. What do? I said, I don't know, I didn't watch it, I was doing something else. If you have a problem, maybe you should call the police department and ask them if they could go down and let them know. I thought it was city council meeting, then I found out it was the state of, the city address. Now, the other part of that is, okay, now, are they only gonna be able to hear this on the cable? Not on cable, on computer? They're staying at home with maybe cable, and they're watching it on cable. They don't have computers.
Speak to Denise after
Okay.
the meeting on that. It's on cable?
But it is on both. It's running on,
It's on both.
With the audio. With the audio, okay. Okay, so I can let them know that. Next, now the taxes for the city of Berkeley that Oak Park now is going to collect.
They've always collected.
That's what
They
my question.
just kind of made it official.
You've always collected, because I know you do for Ferndale.
Yeah.
And it's only going to be for those areas that are in that school district?
Yep.
Okay, I thought so, but I wanted to
Just
verify that.
exactly what's happened before.
Okay. The next on the smoke shops, smoke lounges, I've heard from numerous people that there are already smoking establishments over at 10 Mile and Greenfield. In one of the restaurants over there, that there already have hookahs or hoopahs. I've not been in there, so I don't know. So that's something to be considered if you're just
If you
applying it now.
get us an address, if you know of it.
All I know is what shopping center it's in.
Got it.
And it's in Oak Park, not in Southfield.
Got it.
And it's on the northeast corner, up in that area.
Any more?
That's it.
Aha, you made it, under 3 minutes. I wonder if the city manager would speak about the water bill. Is that increase
I just
included
really
in the?
briefly, because, I'm sorry to cut you off, Madam Mayor, but the water, those are not, that's not what we're saying. We're not saying those are gonna be the increases at all. This is just the study that was conducted in order to substantiate our system. So none of that has been decided yet. But as far as, does that include the Great Lakes Water Authority's increases? That would be, that number would be inclusive of everything, yes.
You've already doubled in 1 year already. No, my social security didn't double. I didn't get an
Okay,
increase.
your time's up. Thank you. Any other audience members? Okay. Absolutely. Tomorrow is the election. Please be sure to vote. It's a real contested primary. Let your voice be heard. Today, I went to the funeral of an Oak Park resident who was 105 years old, still feisty and very loving and teaching English as a second language at Jewish Senior Life. So condolences to the family of Helen Ritter, who had been living at Jewish Senior Life and had been a star volunteer over there for many years. We have 3 new business openings. One, last Saturday, I went to Captain Jay's Fish and Chicken, and they had people waiting for samples, I guess, all around the whole, the whole building was surrounded by a line of people waiting. And I think it's their 22nd business in this area that this one family has started. So welcome to Captain Jay's. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to welcome the Suit Depot to Lincoln Center. Marty Babioff is the owner, and we're going to have a ribbon cutting tomorrow. In the newspaper today, I noticed that at 25900 Greenfield, there is a life skills village for people who have suffered brain injury. And that, I wasn't aware of that opening in Oak Park, but we'd like to welcome Life Skills Village. On Saturday, Tri-Community Coalition had a dialogue day that was amazingly well attended. 100 or more high school students from Oak Park and Berkeley came together to share their concerns about the school and the community, and as a group come up with a solution proposal. And I was a judge, and there was actually a judge who was a judge, and our state representative, Robert Wittenberg, was a judge, and the students were bright and competent and interesting and came up with very creative concerns. One of them, I think, is going to be coming to our council meeting soon. Also, this past Saturday, I presented at Wayne State University's BEST workshop, helping PhD students prepare for a non-traditional job. If only about 20% of the PhDs in chemistry will be working in a lab, the others will be working in another capacity. So it was a fascinating thing to talk to these bright young people as well. Again, tomorrow's the election. Vote, help a friend to get to the polls if they can't, and thank you for your long attention during this very, very long meeting. Mayor Pro Tem Burns.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Please dress appropriately for the next few days. This is pneumonia weather. Do not be fooled by the 60+ degree temperatures and the sun. Also, spring is coming. Be prepared to spring forward and with your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Radner.
Everybody have a good evening.
Councilmember Speech.
Yes, just as an update to the Communications Commission, we had our meeting on the 17th. We meet the third Wednesday of the month, and they're really excited to have started looking at and helping the communications department with the website. So that's going to be coming out hopefully very soon. Keep your eyes open for that, and also some of the things that are in the newsletter. Hopefully you all got that, the recent newsletter. As the mayor mentioned, it is the primary election is tomorrow, so please make sure you get out and vote. And if you're interested in being a precinct delegate, whichever side you're on, precinct delegates are needed. And the deadline for becoming a precinct delegate is May 3rd. You can contact the clerk's office to learn how to become one. And the mayor already mentioned that we have the Suit Depot's ribbon cutting tomorrow, but their grand opening is going to be on the 13th from 11 to 5 p.m. And so they're welcoming the public out to that. And last but not least, well, I have two other announcements. The Historical Society of Oak Park, they're still kind of getting off of the ground, but I wanted to let you know about their meeting. I'm going to be there. It's on the 13th at 2 o'clock. It's a Sunday at 2 p.m. at the library. And my last update is regarding spring. Spring is almost here. As Mayor Pro Tem said, it's not quite here, but the snow is melting around us, and so as the snow melts, please remember to pick up the rubbish or anything that might be under the snow. And they did a fantastic job in the newsletter of, you know, laying out for you what that looks like and what spring cleaning should look like. So please pay attention to that. Thank you. And thank you to the wonderful department that did the slides and Director DeSantis.
Thank you. Councilmember Rich.
Thank you all for coming. Have a good night.
We will not adjourn the meeting, but you don't have to stay. There won't be any business after the meeting, after the closed session. So we will adjourn to closed session.
Need to call closed session vote.
Ah, okay,
Motion
So
to go into
moved.
Closed session.
okay,
So moved. Support.
support. We need a roll call to go into closed session.
Mayor Pro Tem Burns?
Yes.
Mayor McClellan?
Yes.
Councilmember Radner?
Yes.
Councilmember Rich?
Yes.
Councilmember Speech?
Yes.
Session, and we need a motion to approve the minutes.
Support?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes, and this council meeting is adjourned.